Hi, I'm Johnny and you're watching the Hexy Beast, and on today's episode I got something a little bit special for you. It's a look at the solo mode for the prototype of Hellbringer the card game. I just want to say before we start that I was provided a review copy of this game, and this game is still quite early in development, so there's probably going to be a lot of changes to art and components moving forward. Anyway, without out of the way, let's just get on to how the game is played, shall we? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the main board and I'm just going to put it together and set it up somewhere nearby. Then I'm also going to take one of these character boards and these stat tracker thingies which I attach to the bottom, and I'm also going to place that off to the side somewhere. Then I'm just going to make sure I get one of these dry white markers that's with the game, and I'm just separating out all the components. So now let's get on to deck setup and how the game is actually played. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all these common cards for the common draw pile and shuffle them up and place them nearby. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a character. In this case I've gone for the warrior, and in a minute you'll see I'll write down these stats across the bottom and I'll explain them when I do that. But right now I'm just going to place him by here. Then I'm going to take 4 cards off here for my starting hand, and there's also going to be a starter card that'll also go in my starting hand, which is this warrior's sword. As you can see, it's kind of reserved for the warrior, and it's going to be a nice little weapon for us to get started off with. This item means it can be equipped, and this little icon here will show you where I can equip it. As you can see, I've got 4 slots. Some items will take up 2 hands, etc. So anyway, now that we've done that and got our starting hand, let's go on with creating the common draw pile. Okay, so now it's time to set up the dungeon, and the way we do this is we're going to make 4 piles with 8 cards each in for this because we're playing solo. But because we're playing the tutorial, we're only going to make 2 piles, so I'm going to do that now. And to each one of these piles, I'm going to add 1 combat card, which is double-sided. And I'm also going to add Tome 3 to this one, and Tome 2 to this one. Then I'm going to shuffle both these piles and place one of these location cards under each, making sure this one goes in the pile that ends up on the bottom when we stack them and put them on top of the deck, similar to games like Pandemic. So I'm just going to place the cave underneath this pile. I'm going to place the tomb underneath this pile. Then I'm going to put the cave tomb on top of the main draw pile. And this will be our main draw deck throughout the game. Anyway, moving on. Now I'm just going to take our demon, which is this guy. As you can see, he has health. This is what we're going to be trying to get towards when we get to the end of the game. Basically, once our tomb card comes out, he's going to appear. So I'm just going to put him up here. Then I'm just going to shuffle all these monster cards and put that by here, and then we're pretty much ready to get on with the game. So let's get into how this game is played. And now we can pretty much start the game. So basically how this game works is we're going to go through a couple of locations in order to get to a boss. And the first location is printed on the board, which is the graveyard, which tells us to place 2 starting monsters plus 2 monsters per player on top of the monster deck, and then draw 1 monster plus 1 per player. So let's do that now. Here's the monster decks. So let's put our starting monster deck on here. Then we're just going to go into the drawing phase and I'll explain everything there. Okay, so when monsters come out in this game, they're either in sight or out of sight when playing solo. There is no enemies that can be seen by only 1 player, as we're only playing with 1 player. So let's see what we got. Our warrior has a base sight of 2, so let's see what we have here. Oh, we have this hellhound. It's going to do 2 red dice of damage to us. And we also have this, and they're both in sight right now, so that's a good thing. Okay, so as you can see, there are some stats associated with our character. So first, we have this one, which is our health. This one, which is our armor. They kind of both combine to create a health pool, but some enemies can get past your armor, etc. We have our sight value, which, as you saw me placing monsters, determines where the monsters go on the board, and if we can see them and attack them. If we can't see them, we can't hit them. We also have my action points, which will build up as I equip cards, etc. And we also have our skill slots, which as you look on the side of the board, there are 3 skill slots. So right now I only have 1 of them unlocked. And we also have our hand size, which is why I drew 4 cards plus this 1 starting card here, giving us a hand size of 5. Okay, so the way cards work in this game, it's basically everything will have an action point cost. So for example, my sword will cost me 1 to equip it, and when I do equip it, it will do 3 red dice of damage. And basically the red dice have 10s and 20s on them. And the green dice, which are poison dice, will only have 5s on them, so they do a little lesser boosted damage. We also have other items we can equip, as you can see. As I said about the character, when we set him up, the character has slots. This one would have to go in the green slot. What this one would do, for 1 action point, would give me 15 armor and an extra sight, which could be very useful actually. The thing is, we only got 1 action point, so we can only really do one thing this turn. And we don't have any cards that are zeros in our hands. We have this 3. Another thing we could do is discard and draw cards, but let's not forget that if we draw too many cards, we're going to end up going through our dungeon way too quickly and not being ready for the boss. So I think in this instance, the first thing I'm going to do is just going to be equip this sword, which will allow me to roll 3 red dice against a target of my choosing. So first of all, I'm going to make sure I pay that action costs, and I'm going to equip it in my red slot. So it's in my red slot, and I'm going to remove one of my action points. I mean, I have no action points left this turn. And basically I can keep doing as much as I want until I run out of cards, etc. And then eventually I'll have to draw back up to my hand at the end of the turn. So I've equipped that now, but when I equip it I also get to use it. So I'm going to pick a target and we're going to roll those 3 red dice against it. So let's do that now. Okay, so the target I'm going to choose for this attack is going to be this little skeleton, because it only has 10 health. So I've got quite a high, well, it's got 5 health and 5 armor. And I can see it. It's only going to activate once. So basically, I am now going to roll those dice, and then I'm going to try and compare against these 2 values in hopes that I beat them and then kill this monster. And the cool thing about this game is anytime you kill a monster, you basically get to put it face down next to your player board and you get a free stat. So let's try and kill this guy, because I wouldn't mind an extra action point, to be honest. So we roll these, and yes, we've got 25 damage based on the dice, as you can see. So we've rolled a 10 and 2 10s and a 5 even. So that's basically going to kill this guy off. And now I'm going to show you what happens on the player board with him. Okay, so now the skeleton's been taken out, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to place him by here, face down, so that I can get an extra action point. So that means we now have 2 action points. Also, because I've run out of action points for the turn, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end my turn here, which will allow me to discard as many of these as I want in order to get some full hand back up again. So that would be back up to 5. So I'm going to discard these 2 because they're a little expensive, and I'm going to keep these 2 and draw up another 2 of them. So here's the cards I've drawn, and we've got a nice poison dagger here, which, as you can see, will add some green dice to our attacks and give us extra card draw. And we also have this rapid fire card, which seems to be a skill, which will allow us to add 2 damage to a target, and we also get +1 damage for each card that I discard. Ooh, that could be useful later on. So let's just put them in our hand and get on with how the enemy activates. Okay, so now let's get on with how enemies attack. The way damage works in this game is it's pretty much all or nothing. So if it doesn't beat my health and armor, it doesn't kill me. There's no tracking of health, so to say. So when enemies roll, they all roll at once, and first they roll this targeting dice, which will determine who gets attacked. So in this case, it would be the player. In this case, it would be a companion. In this case, it would be both. And in this case, it would miss, but we would have to discard 2 cards. So anyway, first, let's roll this and see where those 2 red dice are going to end up. And it says here, he's actually going to attack the player. So we're going to take 2 red dice. See if they total 50, which I doubt they will. In fact, he's missed 1 and he's got 5 on the other. So we got lucky on that attack. So no problems for us. Anyway, let's move on to the next player turn. Okay, so we have 2 action points this turn. Also, one thing to mention about cards, we can actually play any card, but in order to equip this, I would have to be a different class. So this would basically get discarded if I was to use it. Whereas if I was the blue class, I would be able to keep it out. So right now, I think the first thing I should do this turn is actually give myself a bit more armor and an extra sight. And this will equip into my green slot, which is, as we can see on my character, is completely free, so that's fine. And it's going to cost me 1 of my action points. So let's do that now. Place that by here and adjust my values. Okay, so I now have 15 armor and 1 extra sight for a total of 3 sight. That cost me 1 action point. So what I think I might do next actually is attack with my sword this turn. So I'm just going to make sure I mark that I've used that, and that's going to be another 3 red dice that are basically going to be rolled against that Hellhound that came out earlier. So let's do that now. Okay, so as we can see, this Hellhound actually has a total of 15 health when including his armor. And he is going to use sharp fangs against us, should he be left alive. So let's deal with this now. And as you can see, we have actually rolled 25 again. That's nice. So we got another one of these, and we get another stat, and that cost us our final action point for the turn. Okay, so I think I'm actually going to put that into armor, which will actually give us 25 armor. So that's a total of 75 to actually kill us, which is actually pretty good so far. Okay, so we've run out of action points, and I don't think there's anything else we can do this turn. I also want to point out that I do have this poison dagger here, which has quite a nice attack, which has 6 red dice, and 6 green dice even, and 1 red dice, but it would take up my sword slot, which currently gives me 3 red dice, which could be more reliable. Also, if I was any of these 2 classes, the green or the blue, it would actually give me an extra action point. It would cost me 2 to use each time, but it would increase my hand size. I think I might keep this one this round. And what I'll actually do is I'll discard this one, which means we're going to have to basically discard up to our hand size, which at the moment is 5. So let's do that. Okay, so we've drawn our 3 cards, but look what's come up. It's been this combat card, and that basically says for us to draw 1 monster. And then we would draw 1 card under the common pile, and then discard after the effect is applied, which basically means this would get replaced by another card. So that's 1, 2. I'm just going to go sort this out now. So that's 1 monster. Let's check its sight value. It's got a, it's a bear. Ooh, it's got a sight value of 2 and 20 half. So that means we can actually see this, so that's going to go in the front row. And then we are going to draw 1 card from the bottom of the pile. So we discard this. And instead of drawing from the top and speeding up our dungeon, we get to draw 1 from the bottom. So let's just go see what we got. Ooh, a new shield. Okay, so we've got our new hand. Ooh, some interesting stuff in here. This one's two-handed. Two-handed shield. Look at that though, 40 armor. 5 damage when I'm attacked. Oof, that is quite nice. And it gives me an extra action point, because I'm the right class. That could be fun. We'd be getting rid of a weapon, and it will cost me 2 actions to use it each time. Okay. So, looking at our hand, we've got some cool cards. Let's just get on with the enemy turn. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my sword and this skill in order to attack the bear. Okay, so I chose to use those to attack the bear, and it succeeded. So I'm going to gain that extra action point, which means I'll have 1 left over this turn. But I don't have anything really left over in my hand or anything I can use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end my turn there and discard all of these and draw up to my hand size, which is 5 at the minute. Okay, so here's my new hand. Oh, look, we've got the tome card. I'll explain how these work in a minute. So basically what happens now is that we all draw 1 card under the monster draw pile and add it to our attribute point. So it's basically a free attribute point from that. It also links to story passages in the campaign book, but in this case they're just hints, so I'm not really going to pull the book out for them. We also drew this cave location card, which will make us draw 2 monsters, and now a site requirements are going to be +2. We also have to place this on the location pile, so let's do that now. Okay, so I'm just going to place our cave location card by here, and then I'm going to add the attribute for the tome in the next bit. But first I'm going to draw 2 monsters and see where they spawn. So first we have this crocodile, which is 1 site, so we can see that. Don't forget that we've also got plus sight from the cave, so that's actually a 3 site, and we have 3 site. But this is a 3 plus the extra 2, so that's going to be a 5 site, and we only have 3, so that's actually going to be out of sight, so it's going to be able to attack us in the enemy phase, but it's not going to be able to for us to attack it. So let's put that by there and see what happens. Now let's go back on and get that attribute point, and then I'll get on with enemy activation. Okay, I'm just going to get that 1 site because that's what I need. So that's going to be 4 site in total. Okay, so now the enemy's going to activate again, and they're both going to activate at the same time, and they're going to target my companions. But because we don't have any companions, that means they're going to target the player. Now let's have a look at how much dice they're going to roll. So first of all, the scorpion is going to roll 6 dice altogether, 2 red and 4 green. And this crocodile is also going to roll 2 red. Oh, so things are starting to get a bit prickly. As you can see, things are starting to heat up. So let's get that roll sorted. Oh, so that's going to be 4 red and 4 green with our total health of 75. Things are starting to look a bit more prickly. Also, some of these monsters are a little harder to defeat. So right now we've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 55. Okay, so if I didn't have that armor, I would have been dead now. Okay, so basically in the solo mode, turns will keep going back and forth like that until you draw that tomb location card, which will add to the sight value and also bring out this nasty here, which will be our main boss. And as you can see, we would need to build up quite a bit in order to actually defeat him. Once he's defeated, we win the scenario, but if we are killed, we lose the scenario. And that's basically how it works. So let's get back to the table where I can tell you some about what I think of this game and how I'm looking forward to it moving on to the Kickstarter. So, catch you there. Okay, so now that you've seen some of how the game is played, it's time for me to tell you what I think. And first of all, I have to say that I've really enjoyed the game. I think it has a lot of potential to grow and really become one of those special card games that has multiple campaigns that eventually lead you on a grand adventure. Right now, though, like I said, it's very early development. There's a few translation issues in the rulebook, but I'm glad Max was on hand to help me out with them. It's still very early days, but like I said, it's a quite enjoyable game. I generally like the idea of dice with cards, and I feel the way that you upgrade your character throughout a game really does like build up that like power fantasy. By the end of a game, you really are throwing handfuls of dice into the dice tray. I also quite enjoy the decision to use multiples of 5 on the dice because I feel this actually makes the math easier. As by the time you're rolling like 7 of one and 6 of another, having them be like singular or double hits would actually cause a bit of confusing when adding them up. So keeping them as 5s and 10s meant it was easy to just group 2 dice together, that's 10, 20, 30, 40, etc. It made calculating damage quite easy, and I thought that was a very clever decision on the designer's part. So anyway, that's Hellbringer the card game. It'll be coming to Kickstarter soon, and like I said, this is a prototype, so components and artwork are likely to change. So if you've been enjoying this video, or maybe some other content on the channel, please feel free to smash that subscribe button by there, and check out another one of my videos by here. Anyway, I've been Johnny, you've been watching The Hexy Beast. Thank you for watching, and most of all, stay hexy everyone!